then we're like, day game sucks, it's hard, it's uncomfortable, it doesn't work, right? And then we'll prove that, and then we'll quit. And then then you're actually likely to delete yourself from the gene pool. Right? It's not the guy that went and approached and the girl said, ha ha, you're a loser. He's like, all right, cool, bang your sister then. That guy's gonna be fine. Yeah? The guy that's like, oh, no, I'll retreat. And we've all, you've all done that for some number of years, right? Yeah, no more. It ends here. Now, what usually happens with this approach anxiety is stimulation, girl, activation, body, thoughts get involved. Let's say it's the compressing, bubbly feeling in your stomach. It gets all squashy and thingy, and it builds up to reach a point of intensity or a peak. Now, what mostly happens is when it gets to like what appears to be kind of an overwhelming point, that's when we back away because we want the feeling to go away, and the feeling does go away when you remove yourself from the stimulation. This is a real problem because what I have done, and if I do it many times, is I'm training myself that the idea of approaching women involves feeling bad, feeling really bad, and then running away, and then I feel okay again. Right? So I'm training myself, that's my process. And I never get to the other side of that bad feeling. But if we learn to observe it and dissolve, and you can actually actively influence, at least to some degree, dissolving those sensations, then you'll find that it reaches some kind of peak, and then it starts to relax and change into something else. And that's whenever guys, you were talking about like, I was chatting to the girl, and then I ran out of things to say, and then I bailed, right? During any interaction, you'll have many points where there's a build-up of pressure, and then that will be the point where you're most likely to release it by leaving, right? And those happen commonly where they're like, hey, I'm doing my opener. And she's like, hi. So what's your name? Cool, I'm James. Now's the one. After I've introduced myself is the most common one, the common first one, where it's like, oh, I did my opener, and now she's still here. And now the pressure builds, and I'm like, oh, fuck, what am I gonna do? So how's your day? Release. Cool, yeah, nice. And what are the plans for the rest of the weekend? Blah, 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 cool. And here's another one, right? And these like negative pressure, because in terms of the 5 principles, pressure and release is one of the primary principles. There's negative and there's positive pressure. Negative pressure is this awkwardness or this sense of like, oh, I don't know what to do in this moment. And so we want to release the pressure. Positive pressure is sexual tension. All right, excuse me, stop for a second. Builds, and I'm deliberately holding it there for a moment. Your eyes are magnetic, and then I release it deliberately. All right, because I want to have an effect on her. Yeah, so I'm learning to ride and play with pressure, because ultimately seduction is the build up and release of pressure until orgasm. So you're training yourself to, okay, go into this situation, build the negative pressure builds to that peak, and you're like, and that's my cue to leave, right? Whereas if you had at least gotten over that first wave of pressure, right? You're like, oh, I want to leave, say one more thing. Yeah. So anyway, what's cool to do in Budapest? She says something, I've released the pressure. Now, if you want to leave, okay, leave on the release. I mean, I'd rather you didn't, but if you're going to, wrap it up on the release when you're like, okay, I'm chill in this moment, because then I'm choosing to leave. I mean, why? But sure, I'm choosing to leave as opposed to I'm reactively leaving based on this internal feeling. Does that make sense? At least logically?
So then you're not stepping away from the high pressure moments. More of a reward, well, not really a reward, but
it's just like I can handle the high pressure, and it's really important to prove to yourself that there's something that's a release on the other side, yeah. Because otherwise, a guy can repeat the same thing 1,000 times, where he goes and does openers and then runs out of things to say and then leaves. He's just training himself that this is always painful, because yeah, it's not actually painful, but it's pressurized. And we'll interpret it as being painful, right? And then we're like, day game sucks, it's hard, it's uncomfortable, it doesn't work, right? And then we'll prove that, and then we'll quit. And then you're actually likely to delete yourself from the gene pool. Right? It's not the guy that went and approached and the girl said, ha ha, you're a loser. He's like, all right, cool, bang your sister then. That guy's gonna be fine. Yeah? The guy that's like, oh, no, I'll retreat. And we've all, you've all done that for some number of years, right? Yeah. No more. It ends here. Questions so far? Comments, thoughts?
But is it better to bring also awareness to the way that you're feeling, to not get too much in your head and start thinking of all these stories?
Absolutely.
Attaching to yourself, so kind of riding the wave of anxiety or whatever it is that you're feeling.
Yes, and in a moment we'll do some meditation to show you that exactly. Yeah, so the solution essentially is to, you can't control the way your body activates usually. It does its thing. The mind runs off and then you're like, oh, okay, that's the mind doing its protection thing. All right, we've done that before. Cool. Thank you very much, thoughts. I'm going to bring my attention back to the physical sensation. That's why I asked at the very beginning, what's the proof that you're feeling nervous? Because at first it feels like this ambient feeling. Instead, you're like, well, no, it's in a specific place or multiple places. It's here, it's here, it's here, it's whatever it is. Okay, there's the physical manifestations. Let's bring our awareness to it, because just shining the light of attention on something makes it way less scary. Instead of like this ambient, like, oh, I feel bad. Well, don't worry about I feel bad. I feel activated. Where do I feel that? Okay, I feel it in my stomach. And how would I describe it? I'm nervous. I'm scared. No, that's a value judgment. That's me putting an arbitrary label upon it. Because it could, for someone else, it might be interpreted as excitement. For me, often it is. I'm like, oh, that's go time. Not always. But,
You are putting label, but it's exciting.
yeah, but I said that's where you will end up. But at first we go from negative to neutral. Later we go neutral to positive, for sure.
So like reframing.
Well, yeah, but it's not a reframe, it's my lived experience, right? So the difference between like me going, logically I'm trying to force myself to think that it's positive, and that's where your subconscious goes, yeah, no, it's not. Instead you go, it's not either, it just is. So what is it neutrally? Neutrally it is some feelings. How would I describe those in a neutral way? Compression, bubbling, zigzag moving, electricity, pulsing. These are all objective and there's no value judgment in them. It's just, again, like a scientist, I'm like, the thing is doing the thing. It is changing and adjusting in this different ways, and I have no thoughts about it either way. I don't care, I have no opinion, it just is, right? Because that's what we can absolutely handle that. We can go, all right, where is it? It's here. How would I describe it? It's like this and this and this. And then I'm just going to sit with it and see what it does, because as with the nature of all things, it will change. Oh, it's getting more intense, or it's building in intensity. Very interesting. Interesting. Okay, and now it's getting a little bit less. It's a bit more subtle. Oh, now it's shifted somewhere else, right? That's fine. Now we can see what objectively our fear is. Because real fear, when there's a snake or a fucking dude with a gun or whatever, that's a survival thing. This is not that. It's just an activation and all the other shit that I said, all right? Okay, that's enough theoretical ranting about it.
Question.
Yeah.
You are talking about feeling basically that you feel
Physical sensations.
during the interaction, but
Before and after and during?
during. What do you don't even have time to feel while you are talking.
Well, initially you won't, because it appears that there's a lot going on. As you get more relaxed into it, you'll see that you can do multiple things at once. I'm aware of my body while I'm talking to you guys now. Yeah. I'm aware of my breathing while I'm talking to you guys now. Now, but yes, you're right that like often in a 2-minute interaction, you're like going in and it's just all a blur, and you just come out with your hairs all ruffled. What the fuck just happened? Yes, but particularly, let's look at the before and the after, right? Pretty soon, we're going to be walking through these wonderful streets, and we're going to be interacting with the strangers, right? So as we're walking along, looking for a girl, which won't take long, but okay, you're walking for 2 minutes trying to find your next lady to talk to. What am I doing? Am I up in my head going, oh, fucking, this sucks? Or I'm trying to remember what is all the things that James said or whatever else it is. I'm building all that stuff back up. No, instead I bring my attention to my feet and I feel myself walking. And this is where, we'll do this practically in just a moment, but in brief, I'm going to be bringing my awareness to what I can feel and experience right now. I can feel my feet on the ground. I can feel the sun on my skin. I can hear the sound of the fountain. People chatting over there, the tweeting of the bird in the trees, right? Because as I said yesterday, we only have a limited amount of conscious focus that we can project in any direction. And if we're burning 70% of it up in our head, then it's really hard to be observant and to be there with somebody, right? I'm about as present as I could be with you guys right now. I'm not reading off a script. You know, I haven't said this exact speech before. I've said various variations on this before, but I'm here with you and engaging with you and making eye contact with you, right? I'm also feeling my body, I'm feeling my breath, I'm aware of what's going on. So you probably perceive that I give a shit and that I'm actually here to communicate, right? I could just memorize the like, okay, I do, this is the morning session, I do the thing and I rattle it off and whatever, but you wouldn't feel connected to me and I'd feel like a fraud, right?
I've heard you say this stuff before, but it's more like it's like he does believe it. He does, you know. I'm getting a feeling out of it this time.
Yeah, a good cult leader believes his believes his doctrine. So there's an opening for a new pope. Interesting. Right. So we want to basically rally as much of our conscious resources as we can into the present, because that's what makes you charismatic. Right? That's what means that you have an impact on people. It's not necessarily the cool things you say. You know, it's the way that people feel around you. Because you're describing, I guess, you've seen me do it on camera, but you're here in real life, so there's a different feeling because I'm surrounding you all in a bubble, and I'm holding you into it, and so you, I assume, feel my presence. Okay? It's not magic. It's technical, actually. Right? It's that okay. I know how to get out of my head more or less, and be able to be there with someone. And when you're doing that with a woman, then she feels the man, right? Not 100% regardless of what you look like or whatever else, but it's like, that's another reason why dating apps suck so much, because she gets no impression of the man. It's just the pretty or not face, right? She's just like, do I like that bone structure? Because she's like, I can't feel anything about this guy, so I guess I just have to go on, is he jacked and has tats or whatever the thing is that she thinks she likes, right? Whereas, I am not the type of many of the women that I've fucked, right? They're not like, that's my, skinny, twice my age, big-nosed, hairy Australian dude with kind of dandy, stuff. She's not sitting there dreaming about that. But when I come up to her and I'm like, she feels the presence of like, whoa, this is a man, like, and he means it, and she's not thinking that consciously, but she's experiencing that, then, more often than not, she finds herself attracted to me. Right? And that's awesome because it means that all of us can do that. Right? That's not just the privilege of Brad Pitt or whatever super hot dudes are out there. If a girl can't find a guy that's got presence, she'll go for the pretty boy, right? Because there's not that many men who have presence anymore anyway. Yeah.
You mean everybody on mobile or everybody thinking something?
Yeah, and also
present being.
Yeah, all of that, and also like men not like experiencing and expressing masculinity, and I don't mean that in like a really reductive, like he must be, like tough or do contact sports or whatever. There's lots of ways to be masculine, right? But to actually be in touch with your raw masculinity, your sexuality, your artistic expression, all of these things combine into a package to present the masculine to the woman. And different women will have different variations on what types of masculinity that they find interesting or appealing. But overall, the man that's there with her, that's solid, as well as being able to be light and playful and have fun as well, it's not just about being staunch, and is going for what he wants and is coherent and calibrated, right? Because the reason why a nice guy is overall unappealing is because he's sending mixed messages which she perceives as lies. Yeah, which is that I'm really nice and pleasant and harmless and so on, and I don't even have a dick, but I'm trying to get something out of you covertly, and women find that repellent. If the guy, if it's her friend, it's fine, but if she knows this guy wants something out of me, but he doesn't have the balls to actually express it, she perceives that as a lie. Which is why, I remember this back in early days in Australia, going to bars and clubs and seeing guys just going, hey, going. Yeah, you're fucking hot. What's your name? And then making out with them. I'm like, what the fuck? Women are idiots. What is this brutish man? It's like, why does she do that? I talked to her for 40 minutes and talked to her about her poetry, and she didn't. What the fuck? And it's obvious to me now is that even though it wasn't very elegant or refined, the guy's just like, I'm a man, I've got a dick, you want to, yeah. And she's like, okay, oh yeah, it's masculine, it's a bit disgusting, but whatever, that's kind of hot. Yeah. Women, that's what they like. So, I don't want to be that version of it, but I took some lessons from the Aussie bogans who just went for it. Yeah. And that's, you know, we're going to be doing the more refined version of that on this workshop. Hope you enjoyed today's video, a little sneak peek inside a Natural Lifestyles workshop. Now, if you'd like to make 2025 the year where you get your dating life sorted, then you should consider joining me for my upcoming workshop in Lisbon, Portugal from the 20th until the 26th of July. There's only 2 spots left, so if you want to join, you better get moving. Click the link into the description. You can get on a free call with us, have a chat about your situation, and see how it is that we can help you to achieve your dating goals this year. So join me, July in Lisbon and August in Budapest, but get moving because spots are selling fast. And if not, we'll see you in the next video. Peace.